We've all had them, right? Those gut feelings we'd much rather avoid. But what if they're not just random discomforts? Today, we're going to break down the science behind our digestive distress and look at the incredibly clever ways we've figured out how to fight back. You know that feeling, that fiery burn rising up in your chest after a big meal, or that sudden sharp stomachache that just doubles you over? If you've been there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And these are super common experiences. But here's the thing. Those aren't just random aches and pains. They're actually distress signals, alarms, really, coming from a battle that's happening deep inside your gut. It's a clash between the powerful forces that digest your food and the very tissues they're supposed to be protecting. So to really get a handle on this, we're going to frame our whole discussion around two major internal conflicts. First, we've got the acid problem, and then we're going to tackle the inflammation problem. Let's kick things off with acid. Okay, so our first battleground is all about stomach acid. I mean, this stuff is essential for digestion, but when it starts to go rogue, it can cause some serious trouble. We're talking about GORD and peptic ulcer disease. So first up is GERD. You might know it as reflux. And what's so interesting here is that the problem isn't that you have too much acid. No, the real issue is that the acid is in the wrong place. It's sneaking its way up into your esophagus, which just isn't built to handle it. And this usually happens because the little one-way gate at the top of your stomach, the esophageal sphincter, gets a bit weak or faulty, letting acid splash back where it doesn't belong. Now, peptic ulcer disease, or PUD, is a completely different kind of acid problem. With this one, the battle is all about defense. The stomach has its own protective lining, kind of like a shield of mucus, but that shield can get worn down. This leaves the stomach wall, or the first part of your small intestine, totally vulnerable. The stomach's own acid then basically starts to digest its own wall, creating these painful wounds that we call ulcers. So, the key takeaway here is all about location and what's actually failing. With GORD, it's a mechanical problem, right? The gate is broken and acid is refluxing up into the wrong pipe. But with PUD, it's a failure of defense. The wall itself is damaged, right where the acid is supposed to be. It's the classic case of acid in the wrong place versus a wall that can no longer defend its place. Okay, so we've laid out the conflict. Now, how do we fix it? How do we restore peace? Well, let's open up the pharmacological toolkit and see what we've got for taming that acid. All right, the heavy hitters in this fight are the proton pump inhibitors, or PPIs. And honestly, the way they work is pure genius. So you take this pill that's actually inactive. It's what's called a prodrug. It travels down to the special little acid factories in your stomach lining. And here's the cool part. The acid itself flips a switch on the drug, activating it right at the source of the problem. The now activated drug then goes and finds all the tiny pumps that are churning out acid and just shuts them down permanently. But here's where it gets really, really interesting. Check out this slide. The half-life of a PPI, that's the time it takes for your body to get rid of half the drug, is incredibly short. We're talking like 2 hours max? So that leads to a pretty obvious question, doesn't it? If the drug itself is out of your system in a flash, how in the world does one pill keep your acid under control for a full 24 hours? And the answer is just brilliant. The drug doesn't need to hang around because the job it does is irreversible. It physically breaks the acid pumps. The only way your stomach can start making acid again is to literally build brand new pumps from scratch. And that takes a long, long time. So you get this incredibly long-lasting effect from a drug that's pretty much gone before you've even had lunch. Other drugs use these really clever physical tricks. You have alginates, for example, which mix with your stomach acid and form this thick, gel-like raft. It literally just floats on top of everything in your stomach and creates a physical wall to block any reflux. Then there's sucralfate, which reacts with acid to turn into the sticky paste. It hunts down an ulcer, latches onto it, and forms a kind of protective, medicated bandage right over the wound so it can heal underneath. But what if your ulcer is caused by that nasty bacteria H. pylori? Well, then you have to go on the offensive with an all-out assault called triple therapy. First, you use a PPI to knock down the acid levels, which helps the ulcer heal and also makes the bacteria weaker. Then you follow up with a 1-2 punch of 2 different antibiotics to make absolutely sure you wipe that bacteria out for good. So that's the whole acid problem. But now we're going to shift battlefields entirely. We're moving on to a totally different kind of conflict, the problem of irritability and inflammation. This is where the gut's own behavior and its immune system take center stage. Okay, This is a really common point of confusion, so it's a super important distinction to make. On one hand, you have irritable bowel syndrome, or IBS. Think of this as a motility disorder. It means your gut looks perfectly normal, but it functions abnormally. It's just misbehaving. On the other hand, you have inflammatory bowel disease, or IBD. This is a full-blown inflammatory disease. Your own immune system is actually attacking your gut, causing visible physical damage, swelling, inflammation, ulcers, the whole thing. And, because these two problems are so fundamentally different, the strategies to calm the chaos have to be different too. It makes sense, right? You can't treat a gut that's just misbehaving the same way you treat a gut that's literally being attacked. With IBS, since there isn't one single thing to fix, the treatment is all about managing the symptoms. Is diarrhea the main issue? There's a drug for that. Constipation? There's a different drug for that. Dealing with painful cramps? Antispasmodics can help relax those gut muscles. It's a very targeted, symptom-by-symptom approach to try and get a misbehaving gut back in line. Now, treating IBD is way more aggressive, and that's because the main goal is to stop your immune system from attacking you. The whole toolkit here is about fighting inflammation. You might start with drugs that just reduce inflammation right in the gut lining, but if the attack is more severe, you might need powerful steroids to suppress inflammation all over the body. And for the toughest cases, doctors have drugs that directly dampen the entire immune response, or even super high-tech biologics that block the specific signals that are fueling the fire. So what's the big picture takeaway from all of this? Really, it's that managing these gut disorders all comes down to one thing: correctly identifying the specific internal conflict so you can bring in the right solution to fix it. I mean, think about it. Whether it's precisely shutting down a single acid pump, or building a temporary wall out of seaweed, or telling an overactive immune system to just stand down, every single one of these treatments is a really sophisticated attempt to restore the delicate balance inside our gut's amazing ecosystem. And that really leaves us with a fascinating question for the future. We've gone from simple antacids to drugs that can target a single enzyme or block one specific immune signal. As our tools get even more precise, what will personalized gut health look like? How will we be able to tailor treatments not just to a disease, but to each person's unique internal battlefield? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks so much for joining our explanation.